Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Today is Monday, the 30th of August, 2021, and welcome to Dr. Younos show on OMID 24, broadcasting from Toronto, Canada, and I'm here in California. I'm returning from a long vacation in August, and it was a wonderful vacation. Unfortunately, it was too hot, and I did not anticipate that Samarkand and Bukhara and even Austria and Spain, all over that I traveled this summer, it was so hot. So I like to talk a few minutes about our my trip to Central Asia and Europe, and but before that. When I was away, there was political turmoil in Afghanistan, and the Taliban took over swiftly, unfortunately. And I'd like to thank all our youth around the world, in Europe, in Canada, in Australia, in America, that they launched a demonstration and protest against the Taliban, because Taliban, it's not the choice for Afghan nation. They imposed themselves on Afghan nation, and we have to, with pen and words and non-violence, we have to fight for our right. Islam is not a radical. Islam is not terrorism or terror. Islam cannot be imposed when the Quran says "La ikra fi din," let be no compulsion in religion. You can't impose deen on people. So I was away, and I got some emails and texts that I should have participated in this gathering, but unfortunately I was away and I could not. But I thank you for your invitations that you asked me to join all these demonstrations and protests. The fight goes on, and we are for the peace, because Islam is a deen of peace, but unfortunately, the Taliban imposed themselves on Afghan nation, and they bring a radical version of Islam into the nation, and that's not acceptable for Afghans, who are very freedom loving people. They are Muslims, 99%, and they don't have any problem with Islam, but they do have a problem when Islam is imposed on them, and their brand of understanding of Islam. So I strongly oppose the Taliban regime, and I ask you to join me for this opposition. And we support the opposition forces, although they are small and not at this point not that big against the Taliban. But it doesn't matter. Every opposition, even if it's small or big, we have to join the opposition for freedom of Afghanistan. This is, excuse me, this is extremely important, because we can't go back into a lifestyle of terror and losing our freedom of speech, freedom of the pen, our women rights, that it's totally in danger. And Islam does not discriminate against women at all. What Afghanistan needs, it's an Islamic democracy, not just a version of Saudi Arabia or the Gulf states. What Afghanistan needs is Islamic democracy. And Islamic democracy dictates that all tribes are equal, men and women are equal, There is no superiority of a man over a woman, and there is no superiority of a woman over a man, and there is total gender equality in Islam, and their citizenship. Everyone is responsible before the law, and that law needs to meet the demand of contemporary world, and not just some junction of Sharia that does not correspond to contemporary lifestyle. So that's why last year, if you remember, I wrote this Islamic democracy. You can order it through Amazon. And in Islamic democracy, I explained very clearly about the gender equality, about the progress that Muslim can make, about the citizenship, about who can run the government. Everything came. I researched this for 10 years. So if you have not read that, Islamic Democracy, Roadmap to Peace in the Middle East, this is what you need to read. We are not against Islam, but we are against an Islam that imposes on us, for one thing. We are against an Islam that divides men and women, while Islam teaches gender equality. We love Islam because of freedom of speech and freedom of thinking. And the Quran says, أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ, but don't you think, don't you ponder? وَيَتَتَفَكَّرُونَ, don't you think? So Quran teaches us all these good things that is also compatible with democracy. And actually, no government no people or group or party can impose themselves on a people. Well, after the pass away of the Prophet of Islam, as you all know, there was a big gathering in Saqifa, and they selected the first Khalif. That is the principles of Islamic democracy, that we have to elect a president and not force ourselves to people. So unfortunately, the Taliban do not meet the contemporary demand. They do not meet the international demand. They do not meet the demand of contemporary youth and masses of people of Afghanistan, between 30 to 35 million people. So from day one, I opposed this takeover. That was a big setup between the president who escaped the country and in the Taliban, and they swiftly took over the whole Afghanistan. Only Panjshir Valley and the Panjshir province is still resisting the opposition, and I personally I have one vote, and I personally joined that opposition for free Afghanistan. We are Muslims. We do not have any problem with Islam, but we do have problem with terror, with imposing religion on us, dividing men and women in gender issues, curbing our freedom of speech and freedom of mind, while the Quran teaches us freedom of speech, alam al-bayan, alam bil-qalam, in thinking and all that. So we do not want to be another Saudi Arabia or Qatar or all these Persian Gulf state that they use deen or religion for their own political gain. But the deen came for the masses of people. It cannot be imposed, and it came for sociologically speaking, it came first to make us civilized, and then make us moral, and third, make us just. Unfortunately, it's not justice that you impose deen on people, and I do not have any support for the previous government, who were very corrupt, extremely corrupt, and they could not handle the affairs of the state. And finally, the president escaped the country, and they had to be toppled. But and I agreed with that part. But this toppling of a government should not be replaced by another radical Muslim government. That's not acceptable at all. We should have had an election in a new president, a new administration should have come to power with the choice of the people, not just a group of people or a party imposing on Afghan nation. So that was a sad thing that happened when, and this is not in support of the previous government at all. We all know that the previous government was very corrupt and they were very tribalist, very corrupt. They were not following the principles of Islamic justice in law or Sharia. But that does not mean that we should support another radical Muslim government in place. No, we do want Islam. We love Islam. Islam gives us an identity. Islam gives us a culture. Islam gives us hope in a beautiful way of life. And I've been living here in the United States for 41 years and got educated here and studied here and taught at university. And I have been living as a Muslim all my life in this country. And because one thing that Islam gives people is freedom. You decide for yourself if you want to accept the deen or you do not want to accept deen. Deen cannot be imposed, but deen came to make you civilized, make you moral, make you just, live with dignity and integrity, respect women, respect the elders, in all these beautiful things that I could not, as a social scientist or an anthropologist or a sociologist of American educated fellow, I could not find it in any other way of life or books of philosophy. But Islam is a complete way of life, from family life to social life to political life to economic life. Everything is based on moral principles, but it cannot be imposed. The only way that be imposed, that the masses of people should, the Ummah should vote on these principles of justice, and that is the consensus of the whole Ummah, that they should vote for it, and then it become law, because the Quran is a book of guidance, and it's a book of guidance, and it's a book of hikmah or wisdom, and hidayah, and hidayah in hikmah, in knowledge. But all the Quran can be interpreted according to time and space, as the Ibn Abbas, I have said this many times, that Ibn Abbas said that Al-Quran yufassiru zaman, Quran interprets itself according to time and space we live in. So Quran cannot, it's not an rigid, ideal thing that cannot be reinterpreted according to time. That's why I wrote Islamic Democracy, Roadmap to Peace in the Middle East. Please read that and understand a true mission of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I'm telling you about the excuse me, the situation in Afghanistan is very bad. They are beating people. They stop journalists to report. They confiscated some cameras. They announced that the music is haram. Well, music is not haram in Islam at all. So this radicalism is not acceptable in contemporary time at all. And Afghan nation should stand firm for their belief, for their dignity, integrity, and most importantly for their freedom. Because Deen came to make us free. Deen or religion. As I told you a long time ago, that deen is not really religion, and I explained that in this book, Islamic Democracy. Religion is a weak translation of deen. Deen is a way of life designed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for humanity, not just Muslims. But again, that cannot be imposed. It's your choice to accept it or not to accept it. But at the same time, it is extremely important that we stand firm for our belief. We contact the world organizations and human rights organizations for our freedom, because this is not acceptable at all. And also, the previous government, the president and all, should be brought to justice for what they did in Afghanistan. And of course, United States of America made a big mistake pulling out from Afghanistan without irresponsibly, very irresponsibly. They should have had a strong negotiation for pulling out the troops step by step, bringing a new government into power through election. But nothing was done by the United States in this regard, and so the Joe Biden administration made a big mistake and put the Afghan nation into a big chaotic situation. So that's another issue, that now we have a democratic government under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, but at the same time, they proved to be very undemocratic, because leaving a country like that, why did you go for the first place? So when you went to Afghanistan and occupied Afghanistan, leaving Afghanistan irresponsibly, that was not in the interest of United States, that was not in the interest of Afghanistan, or even in the region. And another mistake was done by President Trump, who signed a stupid contract with the Taliban, a terrorist organization, because he was doing many crazy things in his 4 years of administration. And this administration just pulled out without any responsibility. And we do know, and we were expecting, that American troops should be leaving one day, but not like this. Not like this. This was not a plan, a strategy. So what I suggest is that Afghanistan should be declared non-aligned and neutral. All world power should get together and declare Afghanistan non-aligned and a neutral country. And at the same time, they should pressure the Taliban to establish an election for the Afghan government. I personally do not support an interim government at all, because we do not want to start from scratch. But at the same time, we wanted to have a government that come to power by election, by voting of masses of people around Afghanistan. So this is important for all of us to. This is important for all of us to understand. Sorry, I have to put these things in here. This is very important for all of us to understand that our country of birth is in a chaotic situation, and what we can do, we can write to World Peace Organization, Human Rights Organization, Amnesty International. I don't think that the U.S. government can do anything. They don't have an appetite for doing anything for Afghanistan. Instead of pulling out all these people from Afghanistan that they work for them, I think they should pressure the Taliban and that group to bring peace to people and provide them sustenance, provide them security, provide them freedom. So I always opposed Western democracy in Afghanistan. I always opposed Western democracy in Afghanistan, and you know it, because democracy should be homegrown. A democracy should established by people of the same culture and the same background and principles and values. Democracy cannot be exported. And from day one, 20 years ago, I disagreed about this issue, that they exported democracy to Afghanistan. It was not a homegrown democracy in Afghanistan. So again, those of you who love freedom, those of you who do not want that deen be imposed on you, those of you who stand for the dignity and integrity of people of Afghanistan, those of you who vote for gender equality, freedom of press, freedom of mind, freedom of expression, we have to join together to fight for our freedom. And even the Ahmad Massoud campaign, it is small in structure right now, but that is a national movement. That's a national movement, and we have to support that national movement. So he's young, only 32 years old. He is energetic with brilliant ideas for freedom, and I follow them from day one, and I highly support Ahmad Massoud for, I hope he could achieve something through the support of international community. So unfortunately, when I was away, these things happened, and I'm very sad about it. Next week, I will talk about my trip to Central Asia and Uzbekistan and Europe and all that. So I was not I wanted to talk about it, but I really am not in a good mood at this point to talk about that issue. I did not know that these things happen anyway. So, you have to set up your trip and plans at least two months ahead of time. But I met beautiful people in Central Asia, in Europe, and I was also invited by the African Cultural Association of Austria, that Mr. Rausuddin Mir is in charge, and I had a presentation over there. And I think all associations, except a very few, very few associations in the United States. So far, I do not know any that support the Taliban. No one does, because Taliban is a radical terrorist group. In the last 20 years, they killed many innocent Afghans. They are anti-Shia. They are anti our freedom. They impose deen on us, and that's not what we want. That's not what we want. So sometimes campaigning and fighting from outside, it's very effective. If you remember the history of India, Gandhi started his fight from outside, from South Africa, for example, and we have to send our video clips. You have to share our thoughts with others. Share this video clip to others. We have to get connected, and we have to not only get connected, but we need to support each other. We need to provide feedback for each other. We need to stand for our right. What is our right? Freedom of mind, freedom of expression, freedom of press, gender equality, equality between all religious denominations like Shia, Sunni, Ismaili, and all that, and also equality between all tribes in Afghanistan, because historically and traditionally only the Pashtun have an upper hand in Afghanistan. That should be terminated, because in a democracy, democracy is a system of government of people, by the people, for the people. People are made of all tribes, all religious denominations, and all men and women. And there is no superiority of a man over a woman, and there's no superiority of a woman over a man in Islam. And that's why, again, I wrote this Islamic Democracy. If you have not read it, read it. And because we have to fight with knowledge. We have to fight with knowledge. We have to fight with the wisdom. We have to fight with understanding of our deen. And we have to fight with understanding of our history. So sometimes, as they say, history repeats. That's very true. But that does not mean that we should accept a repeated history that we have very bad experience with it. And especially that the Taliban is just a group of tribal people want to impose their tribal mentality, need it or mixed together with religion. But that's very obvious that we know that what they say, it's not. The most important thing is that deen cannot be imposed. If it's imposed in Iran or Saudi Arabia and all, that's wrong. That's wrong. That's wrong. Deen is a matter of heart and mind. You have to accept it by heart and your mind. And that's all. But if they want to impose you that, that's not deen. That's not deen. You need to know, especially our youth need to know. So we will talk about these issues more often from now on. Next week I will talk about my trip in Central Asia, in Europe, because it's important for you youth that you should take some good vacation. You need to see the world, because the Quran says, وَقُلْ سِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ, travel around the world, travel on the earth. So that open your horizon, that open your understanding of other culture, history, geography, and you really become, as we Afghans say, you become a ripe person. So that's why I speak about my and I also introduce you with some very, very lovely people in Samarkand and Bukhara, that especially when you go there, you should meet them, you should call them. They can help you with your hotel, they can help you with be your guide, and I provide their names and their phone numbers and all that. So this is my program for today. We wish freedom for Afghanistan. Long live Afghanistan. Long live freedom. And we are loving Islam, and we love Islam, but not Islam that they propose to us, a brand of Wahhabi Islam in Afghanistan. No way. I'll talk to you next week. Until next week, I wish you all a very good day and evening wherever you are around the world. Assalamu alaikum.